Welcome to the Inside Line IndyCar Podcast. I'm your host, Zion Brown. Today I'm joined by little David Malukas. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. I'm still half awake, but we're getting there. I got some coffee over there. We're getting up.
As those of you watching can see, we're here at IMS ahead of the open test. And first of all, I want to interrupt myself. I'm younger than you. Is that wrong to call you little Dave? Like, I know Joseph calls you that, and a lot of other drivers. Does it feel weird when it's like someone? Is it only your elders who can call you that?
No, I think, it's just like, obviously, it's a saying I gave myself years and years ago, and I made a promise, and I said, the name can go away once I get my first win, and unfortunately, I still haven't done that yet. We've gotten so close many times, but we need to get that win. So I'll still allow it, but once we get the win in, then little Dave's going to be gone.
Now, once you get the win in, do I have to call you Big Dave, or is Dave, will Dave
You can
suffice?
just call me Dave. You can call me whatever you want to call me at that point.
All right. Well, we're here, like I said, at IMS ahead of these oval open tests, and obviously you joining Team Penske today, or this year, rather. So a lot of pressure being on the Team Penske team heading into the 500 and heading into May, but you've talked so much about how excited you are to be on this team, how that car you're in is a rocket ship. Just how exciting is it for you just being just a few weeks away from race day, being in this car?
For me, it was, I think, in the beginning, joining the team, going into St. Pete, it was a lot of pressure, right? Because, it's a good team, where the team needs to be, and you don't know how things are going to work. How are you going to gel with the car? So many unknowns. And I think since then, since the start of the season, we managed to hit an oval, a street course, and a road course, and throughout all of them, we've had some good success. And right now, we're third in the championship with still the ceiling for potential is just so high. There's still so much that we need to get going with this team. So actually going into this 500, especially this open test here, I'm feeling very comfortable, very chill. I'm confident. I think this car, this team, it's incredible. I've jumped multiple different teams, especially from 2024 till now in the past 2 years. And Team Penske, it's incredible. It's the place you want to be at. So I'm very excited to see the speed that we have coming into this next few days.
Back in 2021, when you were still an Indy Next driver, you tested for Team Penske right at the road course here, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, that's correct.
What do you remember about that moment and just being able to be in one of those cars and think about one of the premier teams in the series and being in that car even just for a day or two?
I remember everything. I remember the photos we got from that test. I actually made it my background of my phone and my laptop, my computer, on everything of just the blacked out Penske car because they couldn't have any sponsors or logos on it. It was just a random test, and it was it just had little Penske on it, and I had those photos for so long. Even when I was already in IndyCar, I still kept those photos just because for me, I could say in that moment I was like, I drove for Team Penske. It was just a test, but I was like, I can't believe it. I drove for Team Penske. It was really cool for me. For me, I grew up watching Team Penske. I grew up watching the number 12, Will Power. That's part of the reason that made me fall in love with IndyCar, made me fall in love with racing. And to say now that I'm a part of that team and not just a part of it, but in that number 12 car, it's very special for me. And now I can actually, I've switched out those photos now to the real Penske car now with the Verizon livery on it.
I think back then when you were here testing for one of those cars, you called it like the Rolls Royce of IndyCar, and then I think earlier this year you said you were in a rocket ship. Just what makes being in that seat so different and so much more electric maybe than some of the other seats you've been in?
I think what's different with Team Penske is you have all the resources at your disposal. Whatever that comes up with in my mind, whatever idea, there is somebody at Team Penske who has the brains for it and can figure it out. And not just like, oh, let me look into it. It's like, I'll give you an answer in the next 5 minutes. It is insane. And when you have these weekends where you have a practice to a qualifying, you have this short timeline of we got to get this car ready to go for qualifying or even going into a race, to have these quick, 5 minutes here and there, I can go make some food, come back, and boom, here we got 3 computer screens, whatever information you need. I get all my answers that I need going to qualifying, which makes my confidence that much higher. I'm not overthinking about anything, and I just have a very clear headspace. And it's the first time ever where I go into every session, practice, qualifying, warm-up, race with a clear mind, and I just have to focus on nothing but car in front of me, do some laps, and try to be quick.
You kind of got a glimpse of that, I feel like, last year being with Foyt and the technical alliance that teams have. Just what did you learn about the way Penske operates from more of a technical side last year that kind of made the transition maybe a little smoother now going into this year?
Well, I think it made it smoother, just understanding from the setup perspective on how the car feels. It's very different no matter what team you get into, and it takes some time to understand it. And I think going at AJ Foyt, I was able to have that jump going into this season, right? I already know roughly what the car's feeling, how the setup's going to be. So there was a lot of similarities. Even though there was some key differences, it was much easier to pick up on than going on to completely different, setup, different team. I mean, it would take so much longer, and we definitely wouldn't be where we are right now, being P3 in the championship after first few races. So it just sped up that process of the learning curve.
Now, you'll be back here next week, obviously, for the Indy GP, and in that race, it was just announced about a week ago that you'll be in that classic vintage, that Will Power livery from 2018 when he won the race and was in that Verizon car, and the 200th win for Team Penske across all different series and circuits. How special will it be for you? Like you said, Will Power is kind of the reason you got into racing, and now you'll be driving that special car that he drove when he won that race.
It's legendary. I mean, the silver arrow. I mean, it's so cool. I mean, for me, and this is also when I'm still getting older, but I mean, it's 2018. I'm still 16 years old. For me, I'm still a kid, and that was like the iconic livery. Just looking at it, and now to say that I get to drive it, and I mean, it's so cool. I'm so excited, for Indy GP. It's almost like I feel like we need to get some good results for Indy GP now, just because we have that livery. But for me, it's gonna be so special. I think for even my parents, they were calling me and they said like, "Oh, I can't believe it. That's so cool." And let's just say it's gonna be a lot of photos taken that weekend.
You mentioned how you came into the year with a lot of pressure, just being in that seat, but now you've kind of been consistently, in that top 10, somewhere around there for each race. Do you feel like going into May, in a sense, that pressure has been lifted, and do you feel like that'll make it easier on race day on the 24th, knowing that you've done it and you've kind of gone through it throughout a few different races?
Yeah, for sure. I think we go off of every previous season, every previous month of May. I mean, it's always just a learning curve, right? And especially going in last season, I learned so much towards the end of that race, those last 20 or so laps. It's a different ball game, different race, coming into that final stretch, being up front. So I'm going to take everything I learned then into this month and see where we can end up.
Throughout these last few months, and even going back toward the end of last year of 2025, what have you been able to learn from your two kind of veteran drivers on the team with you, and Joseph and Scott?
Oh, it's been massive. I think between me, Scott, and Joseph, our setups are actually very similar. So I've been able to just pick up so much more information than I normally would. You have these only 2 practice sessions normally in a race weekend, and now all 3 of us, we can trust each other and differentiate our setups, and post that session we can say, hey, how was that change? How was this change? And then together we work as a collective to overall, we think we'll make the best setup by the time qualifying comes. And I think we've truly been able to achieve that. And it just feels very nice. I think once again, it just helps keep everybody more in a calm state. We can get that much more information from the cars and go on to the next session.
This Team Penske team has, the persona and the reputation of being, so serious, so buttoned up and everything. And, obviously in May especially, Roger cares about this race maybe more than any other owner does. You bring a level of goofiness and youthful energy to that team. How has that kind of balance been like for you, just trying to keep things light and playful while also balancing being serious and knowing when it's time to get serious?
Yeah, I think I definitely can bring out the younger side of Joseph sometimes, for sure. It definitely starts showing when we're doing these debriefs. But I think it's been good, man. For me, when I first came in, I was a little bit nervous. You come in, Team Penske, everything's chrome, reflective, what's going on in there? I wonder. But then I actually end up going in there, and I realized, what that saying of Penske perfect, it's actually the balance of being disciplined, being professional, and having the performance when we need to be. But it's also having that family aspect. Everybody there is having such a good time. They love what they do. And because of that, let's say you go into a work day and say, hey, you need to do this and this, and you can go home. But everybody at Team Penske, they start from there and finish that. But then they also do that extra little bit because everybody just loves what they want to do. Everybody's so competitive, and everybody wants to get that results. And when you have a whole collective working that extra 5-10%, that 5-10% of everybody, it adds up and ends up having these results that we've been having. So for me, it feels very special to be part of that environment. I think I can achieve 110% of my potential being there, and it makes me just happy. Any day I go to the shop, any day I go to the track, I'm just so excited to be here.
Was there a moment maybe in the offseason and preseason where those nerves kind of went away as far as, coming in and being yourself and being your more loose self?
Yeah. Preseason, for sure, I got more comfortable with the guys, but I think from a performance perspective, it was, I don't know, I was still for sure nervous heading into St. Pete because you can look and practice everything that you can, but it's like, man, I've been thinking on it for 6 months. How is this going to end up? Where are we actually going to be? But I truly felt at ease. After qualifying in St. Pete, I was like, okay, I'm calm. We got this. We're already on to a good start. So, yeah, St. Pete was the performance perspective, but with the guys, I got so comfortable with them pretty early on. They treated me like family as soon as I came in.
Was there ever a talk with Roger or anybody else with the team just about kind of keeping that same energy you come with, the online presence you have? Just was there any talk about remaining yourself even though this team has its reputation?
Yeah, of course. Everybody spoke with me and they said, look, just be yourself. We want you to enjoy what you do, and we brought you into this team because of who you are, right? There's no point to change who I am, and I remain to be myself. And I think parts of it too, though, I am just getting older, and I realize with social media and stuff, I have been slowing down a little bit, and I'm like, what's going on? Why am I? And then I realize I'm like, maybe I'm just getting older. I don't know what's going on. I just feel like I'm not on the socials as much, but it's something that, I'm trying to reconnect and get that engagement going again. But for me personally, the team hasn't told me anything. I remain who I am, and then through being that, I feel like I can be who I am. I have a lot more fun, and through that, the results and performance ends up being better.
You mentioned earlier the race you had here last year, right? Finishing second in that race and, getting to those last 50 or so laps and being at the front of the pack. What was that like for you to have that moment, and do you feel like that maybe put you on the radar of a lot of fans who may not watch, every race throughout the course of a season?
Yeah. It was that was the last 20 laps. It replays in my head all the time, from that ending. Just what could have I done differently, how things could have changed. It's been eating me alive for quite a bit. I'm not going to lie. Those are those nights. And even I was talking to my engineer, James, same engineer from Foy, and he was also thinking, like, man, I was thinking, what else could we have done differently? But now, we've had many, many months to think on it. It's almost been a year, and we're going to take all of that knowledge and see what we can do differently this time. I've learned so much from that. It is a completely different race to be in that perspective up front in those last 20 or 30 laps. Completely different ball game, and to me it took me completely by surprise. But I took all of that as like, okay, wow, I've learned so much, and now going into this season, I think when we go into this 500 and we're in that situation again, I'm going to be far more calm in those last 30-20 laps.
How much of that talk you've had with James can you even take to a day like today in the open test where it's 20 to 30 degrees, probably cooler than it'll be in just a few weeks here, and it was a thunderstorm and tornado last night. Like, are you able to really use much of that today and tomorrow? Is that more once practice starts, to really be able to do more of that?
Yeah, I think, this test is always a bit tough. It seems like with weather every year, we always get unlucky. And I think going into it, with these temperature changes, we're just going to run through more of a program of, hey, let's make sure that the car is all good, and let's run through our easy setup changes, but nothing crazy. We're not going to go into full in detail on, okay, let's try this. I think it's more of just, let's make sure everything's working, everything's good, so we can finish that checklist. So when month of May does come, we've already passed that. We don't need to go through a checklist. We can just go straight into setup building.
Are you using your 500 car today?
Am I? I have no idea. I was in Detroit yesterday. I have just arrived late last night, so I will talk to engineers after this, and we'll figure it out.
All right. After 2024, when you signed with Arrow McLaren, then had your accident that stopped you from being able to compete a race there, what has it meant to you between what you did at the end of that year with Myerschank and then last year to really get back to one of these premier teams and like you mentioned earlier, being third in the series through 5 races?
It was a lot, man. To go from 2024, if I actually think 2024 May, that Indy 500, I had to sit on the sidelines. I wasn't racing. I was actually making TikToks. It was a very different perspective, and came back. I lost my ride from McLaren. There's a 40% chance my wrist would never recover. I truly thought that my racing career was coming to an end, and the amount of overthinking I had then, when you come from an injury like that, especially on the wrist, I thought, am I even going to be able to drive the same? Am I going to have the same performance? All of these questions. But thankfully through my parents, I mean, they went through so much, when they were younger trying to come here to America. Obviously, they came from Lithuania, which was occupied by the Soviet Union. And in 91, when they came here, they didn't speak any English. They didn't have any money, and they were in a completely different situation than I was. And so I had that conversation with them, and they really helped motivate me, get me back up, and stay disciplined. If it's something that you truly want, if it's a dream that you want to achieve, you got to keep working at it. It's not just going to come to you. And I got back up, went to IndyCar, asked to be a part of their media team here for the 500, keep my face around, and actually gave me an opportunity to speak on my injury. I was able to go on TV, and it was a very cool experience. And actually, for me, it was one of my favorite 500s because it was the first 500 where I wasn't stressed out of my mind. I was actually able to just enjoy what the 500 was and be a fan and truly experience for so many years of what I forgot of, like, wow, this race is so special. And I was able to get that different perspective. I was able to make so many new fans and new engagements. And then right after that, I get a miracle ride from Meyershank, get back into a car, prove myself. And 2 races in, we qualified 3rd at Mid-Ohio. And everything just turned right around. And now you fast forward here in 2026. And now I'm here with my dream team of Team Penske. And I think if I look back, everything happens for a reason. If I didn't have that wrist injury, I don't think I would be here today. And I just thank God and thank everything that this has happened to me, and this is my life.
Recovering from that, did it feel like almost you had to relearn how to drive the car in any sense?
100%. It was so hard. I mean, even now my seat position, my steering wheel, everything is completely different just to allow for my wrist to move the way it can, because I'm so limited. It's loaded with metal in there now. But hey, now it's twice as strong, so I got metal. Nothing's going to break it now anymore. But no, it was a massive relearning curve, and a lot of that was through that Meyershank years, those few months. Very, very weird seat positions, but we've got it all figured out now.
It's awesome. You talked about chasing that first win of yours. I'm sure you saw this weekend Carson Hocevar, one of the bigger personalities, younger personalities in NASCAR, and what he did after his first win of his career. Have you thought about what your celebration may be like in a moment like that for yourself?
I've had many thoughts of it, especially Indy 500 win. What am I going to do? And yeah, I mean, his celebration was so cool, man. It was so cool. And I liked watching him explain it, because I was like, I think he almost went to that inside wall trying to get it done. And hearing his explanation of it, he almost did. So it was high risk, but high reward. He was risking his aura for that one. I was reading some tweets. It was a good aura risk. But no, I had a lot of thoughts of what I'm going to do. And I think we got some ideas. We got some ideas to be special.
Anything you're willing to share?
Absolutely not. No, I feel like that's a bad luck charm.
All right. Well, David, I do appreciate you so much, and best of luck heading into May.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
This has been the Inside Line IndyCar IndyStar Podcast. You can find the podcast in all of your normal podcast feeds and at IndyStar TV /IndyCar on YouTube. For David Malukas, I'm Zion Brown here on IndyStar TV.